Well, welcome everybody. I'm here with the founder of RescueFi, Jeff. This is awesome what you're doing, helping people in this situation. I love the company name, by the way, and what you're able to do with leveraging investor monies out there that can literally rescue people that are in these bad situations. And bring us up to speed. Tell the audience how in the world that you got involved with this. I know you've been in the industry for quite some time, and now you have a remarkable means of being able to assist with these people that sort of get over on their skis, if you will, and you can really help. So bring the audience up to speed with what you're doing.
Thank you, Izzy. So years ago, I've been in technology sales and marketing for a little over 40 years and been in affiliate marketing, creating systems content going back to 1999. About 18, 19 years ago, I got involved in doing lead generation for payday loans and alternatively payday debt.
Mm.
Back then, it was still a fairly small space. It was growing. And over the years, we've seen a lot of misuse of these systems and these companies. They create a lot of traps for people that are in them and make it really, really, really difficult for them to get out of the loans once they're in them. And when I'm mentioning payday loans, and most of our current materials, we're going to expand on them because most of them talk just about payday loans as opposed to the bigger picture as well, which is installment loans, which are a little bit higher amount, are based on monthly payments. And this isn't even talking about other higher stuff like credit card debt and other personal loans. So over the years, I've generated literally millions of leads in the payday loan space. Um, and when we started doing the payday debt, we started doing call generation. And at one point, we were generating, in terms of a call over 60 seconds. We were billing and generating about 3,000 of them a week.
Wow.
And we hear these calls, and you start to hear the pattern, you start to hear the people behind them, and you start to understand the picture and the impact. When you've listened to people that are literally telling the agent on the end of the phone, listen, if you can't help me, there's a bridge down the street. That's scary. That people shouldn't be stuck in that type of situation. Just before COVID, we had a small center up to do some testing around our strategies. The intention was to keep building into that, but we kind of got run over by COVID.
Yeah.
But during that time, you know, we had a couple of calls that really stuck in the mind. We had one guy that had a $350 loan. He was on fixed income and he'd been making $89 a month payments on this $350 loan for more than 2 years.
How much a month?
89. So he's
80.
more than $2,000 into a $350 loan and has no understanding of how to get out of it, can't get an attorney because he doesn't have the money to do it. They just keep drawing payments out of his account. His bank can't help because they haven't got an order to stop payment.
Oh my God.
So we had another one. Guy phoned in. He didn't owe enough. He had a $500 loan. He had a couple of late payments. So a whole bunch of late fees and penalties kicked in, and his repayment plan became $125 a month for 68 months.
Oh my
He's
goodness.
paying back $8,000 off a $500 loan. And I'd love to tell you that's unusual, but it's not.
I was
It's
just going
all over
to
the
ask.
place.
I was just going to ask that, Jeff. Like, is this the exception to the rule where it happened in a particular state where the laws are egregious and they're able to do that, or is this normal par for the course business practices and what I would say is definitely predatory lending?
It's highly predatory. I mean, let's face it, this used to be called loan sharking.
Yes.
So, and the legislation varies in a lot of states. Payday lending is allowed in roughly 32 to 35 states right now. But installment lending, which allows them to make further payments, is 45 states. So you basically have coverage of about 290 million American citizens are in states where this type of lending is allowed. And in a lot of those states, they're only required to make up to $1 of actual payment per month to the actual end amount that they owe. The rest can just be interest. There's even some states out there, I won't get into which ones, but where all they have to do is pay interest. So they keep on paying their interest over and over and over again. And that's how they wind up with these average interest rates on these loans that can be anywhere from, 396% up to 700% APR per year.
No
It's
way.
insane. Yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely nuts.
Okay, all right. So they're a huge problem, right?
Yeah.
Big problem that exists out there. And what I hate about hearing all this is a lot of times I feel like these payday loan shops are strategically placed near military bases,
Hmm.
near areas where the income is, very low. And it's frustrating, man. Huge problem.
Yeah.
How are you solving this problem? The investor that's listening in wants to know, why am I listening to a call with Jeff Clay? What is RescueFi? What are they doing? How are you going to help this crazy problem right now?
So RescueFi is actually a brand of our core company, Universal Forge. But RescueFi is a concept that I've had for years after listening to these calls. And the concept is that so many of these people have, they owe $400 or $500. They don't have enough to qualify for a lot of the larger programs. I work with a number of companies that do payday settlement, but they do the 1,000, 1,500 plus. And the reason is because they generally have somebody on the file as an attorney that's handling any of the calls from lenders and everything else. And somebody starts paying into an escrow account until they build up enough of a fee that they can make a run at actually doing a settlement on the loan. All the lenders have these built in. If you want an idea of how many lenders there are, how many companies are there people can get payday loans through, in the United States, there's more payday loan, installment loan, check cashing outlets than there are McDonald's and Starbucks corporately owned locations combined.
What?
It's a massive, massive business. Right now in the United States, there's over $43 billion per year spent on installment and payday loans. So our picture is let's try and help some of these people that are stuck in these smaller loans that just don't have enough to do this. We have a process that strips away the minimum payment or the minimum loan amount. It allows us to, instead of camping somebody on a file for months, that the whole settlement process shouldn't take more than 4 or 5 minutes. Simple engagement, settlement, put them into a cleanup loan under a rescue program. We are not a payday lender. We don't charge payday loan rates. Work with the client under an educational program as well to try and not only teach them about money management and all of that, but also we plan on offering them um, educational programs and content that allows them to start um, how to get a better career. Do
Yeah,
you know how to type? Do you want to learn how to build a website? Do you want to learn how to use Microsoft Office or Google Office? Um, how to apply for a higher end job, how to write your cover letter, how to handle the interview, things that will help to prepare. Because right now we have an issue where kind of people's available cash is doing this
yeah,
and debt is doing this. And part of that problem is coming from the lack of education. People don't understand how to do this. Just you look at the ongoing global economics right now around um, what's going on in Iran. Shouldn't affect Americans, but I can guarantee you that it's increasing this problem right now because people's cost to get to work
yeah,
has gone through the roof.
yeah.
And the ripple effect of that throughout all of the supply chain, food on the shelves, everything. inflation is outpacing and has been for a long time, is outpacing incomes.
Yeah,
To say we've added this many jobs doesn't mean that they're jobs that actually meet the inflation rate.
sure, sure. So, how do we solve this then? You're working with investor groups to bring on the money to pay. How does this all work?
So we have a platform, the CTI3 platform, which is credential and identity management, and this will become part of the backbone of our system. What we're trying to do is this system currently accesses and is all set to work within about a $37 billion US global market for credentialing identity, cryptographically signed certificates, centralized, decentralized. Really, really good, solid platform. Compares extremely well to everything else out there in the credential market. Our concept is partially that we are going to add a fractionalization component to that, which is actually not that long of a programming process, where we will be able to bring in outside investors who want to invest in people's payday loans, pay them a rate of return on those, and we'll be able to go out and settle some of these loans and put them into our cleanup loan process. The the actual settlement process will be handled by attorneys. We have all of that set. My attorney, Herb Kraft, has worked with me for close to 30 years.
Mhm.
And he has worked with me in debt settlement space as well for a long period of time. We also have advisors on our company who come specifically from the payday debt settlement who work with those people that are 1,000, 1,500 or more. Going and finding these people and getting the leads is really quite simple because the people that do the 1,000, 1,500 plans, 80% of the people that call them or that they talk to don't owe enough to work with their plans. Among other things, it's a simple matter of me saying, okay, great, send them to me,
Right, right. Because
right? We're all here to help people.
they're sub a certain amount of money, and they don't want to deal with the small fish.
Exactly, exactly. Their system isn't built to do that, but
That
I
makes
am.
sense. That
I
makes
understand how to do it and how to actually make money. And when you look at our overall plan, our overall system, we're not trying to run this as a payday loan system. We are trying to do this as a way to help people. But even dealing with, our entire financial model that we've projected is built around a $300 loan,
wow.
and we go out and we sell fractions or tokens towards that in $100 increments.
Okay.
That's a whole, it's not talking about any of the other debt types that we can absolutely go out and use under this. We can go out and do the credit card debt. That's $1 trillion problem.
Well,
We
I
can
mean,
do
this is probably a good intersect to sort of invite that in with some investor questions. So, folks, click on the link if you have questions that you want to get answered. Maybe you're pulling money out of the market right now, and you're looking at a fledgling economy that is trying to battle its way back, and you're seeing that maybe putting your money in the bank account at an interest rate when inflationary rates are at double digits, you're looking at options, and I get that. And that's why we're talking with Jeff Clay, the founder of, well, you said RescueFi is just
Universal
the
Coach.
brands
Yes.
from Universal
Yes.
Forge, right? So, all that to say, click on the link so you can get an opportunity, and maybe I can connect you directly with Jeff Clay so we can get all of your questions answered. But, one of the things that pops up immediately, Jeff, is, well, gosh, Izzy, are we just borrowing from Peter to pay Paul? Like, are these investors going to become the loan sharks that were the loan sharks? And instead of 400%, it's 200%? What does this all look like?
Our system will be designed around start and end loan date. We're not going to do the, hey, just keep making, payments for years on end. So a $300 loan, if we look at the guy that had the $350 loan, and I've run a lot of different simulations on loans that I've seen come past my desk over the years. In his case, we probably wind up with him going from an $89 a month payment down to somewhere around 45 to $48 a month. 6 months, he's done.
Yeah.
He's out. So he has um, immediate, it kind of seems kind of funny to be thinking in terms of, from our standpoint, that $50 is a massive reduction in how much somebody is paying per month. But in terms of this, it is. In terms of a lot of people on fixed income, it
That's what I
is.
was just going to say, especially an elderly person on fixed income. And maybe it was
Yep.
trying to help somebody that was in a jam, or they were in a jam. Maybe they needed a water heater or something like that. And, a
Yeah.
myriad of different things.
And when you look at it from the terms of, all right, we're going to get him out in 6 months, as opposed to he's going to keep paying it for another year or two, right? $89 a month for a year, that's, $1,000 a year he's
Yeah.
paying, as
Yeah.
opposed to paying it out over the course of 6 months and he's done. And, the thing to remember, we're trying to keep as well forward looking that 90% of the people that get out of payday loans are back in within 6 months. So we're hoping that when this comes through, and this is part of our risk mitigation, we want to establish a longer term relationship with people where if they need to come back, they're not going down the worst possible path. We want to try and provide them with alternative micro lending solutions that get them over a hump.
Yeah.
You can think of this in terms of crime reduction as well, because,
Sure.
this targets heavily into single moms and
Yeah.
single parents. And if you've got a sick kid and you need money to find a way to get them medicine,
Yeah.
you're going to find a way to do it,
Yeah. That makes
whether
a lot
it's
of
legal
sense.
or not.
Yeah, I see that. And what I also see here is there's probably businesses, and I'm not holding your feet to the fire on that, but I've heard of these MCA loans and things of that nature
Yes.
where you have this small mom and pop business that maybe took merchant cash advance, for those of you that are not familiar with that acronym. And this poor, little coffee shop or diner or whatever is getting banged on these monies. Can you talk a little bit about that and maybe if there's solutions that you might have on the dev sprint in the future?
Yeah, actually, we have a plan on how we will approach that. We actually have had a couple of discussions around companies that could help us get into the merchant capital lending business.
Yeah,
Um, there's ways to get people out of those loans. It's a little more complicated because their actual merchant processing account is their lifeblood,
yeah,
and that's what their loan is tied to. So we have plans in kind of in the works in the background on how to do that and how to help people free that up. And those settlements, when we're talking about, our approach here just on the payday side, if we went and took 1%, which would really be a fairly big disruption to that market, that's 200 million in lending. If we go and look at merchant cash, a smaller average size settlement loan on something like that is 30, $40,000. And you
holy
need to have a solution to put them into a
wow.
replacement merchant account so that you can get them out of their current problem,
Yeah. And I love
right?
the
But
fact
it's the
that
same
you're
issue.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you'll help with financial literacy. And folks, if you're on board with this as well, and you want to be able to maybe put up some capital that can help folks and be managed by a brilliant team that Jeff has pulled together. I've had an opportunity to meet some of them, and it's just amazing what you guys are doing. I want you to jump into a little bit about the technology in just a second, but folks, click on the link that you've seen there, or I should say at the bottom here. When you click on that, that'll give you an opportunity to get your questions answered and see if this merits being a portion of your portfolio. I certainly believe it does, but that's just my opinion. But in any event, Jeff, why don't you walk us through the tech and the sophistication around how you underwrite these things? Because, I mean, if someone is in this um, perpetuity type of loan and you notice that they keep doing this over and over in life and they're just over consumptive spending and they're just not managing their money well versus someone that had a life situation. They had a little hiccup and now someone's taking advantage of that. There are ways that you were telling me with your team how you guys sort of mitigate that risk. Can you bring the investor ear up to speed with what that's like?
Well, thanks. Part of what we're planning to do is for anybody in this system, we're going to create a educational part of this, and they will have we're going to have a small monthly fee, and part of that monthly fee will be access to this portal. It will give them all of the educational tools and everything else, and teach them how to hopefully get into a better paying job. But you know, the platform itself that we're running this with, the CTI3 platform, it's agnostic. Like we're starting off with the payday loan business and RescueFi, but it can literally go anywhere. We plan it to be fully compliant with U.S. regulations A plus and regulations D. So, we want this to be impactful as well for not just accredited investors, but smaller unaccredited investors who may only be able to put $100 a month into something but want to earn a rate of return that they can't get from their bank. So that's a big part of what we're trying to do and where we're trying to go with this. The system itself is incredibly robust. It's centralized, decentralized. Um, it targets a lot of the fraud that goes on in the educational communities. And when I say fraud, fraud in the educational community is around $2.4 billion a year in the United States.
What?
So
Wow.
it's so I'll give you an example of how that works. You graduate from high school. I'm going to assume you probably did, considering we're having this discussion. You get a diploma. You scan that diploma, you feed it into AI. You input a list of names and say, please create a duplicate version of this certificate for each of those names. You now have 100 new people that have a graduation certificate who've never gone to high school.
Oh my gosh.
Now apply that to degrees for MIT,
Wow.
for um, Harvard. Apply it to credentials for forklift or heavy machinery operation.
Holy smokes. I didn't think of that.
So an immutable cryptographically signed credential guaranteeing that they actually have the coverage that they say they have. So this is the core platform that we're building upon. It's not something that's hypothetical. It's not something that, hey, we got to go and create that first. No, it's 100% functional. We have clients on it. It is a fully existing piece of technology that we own that is realistically worth about $15 million on the market today, and it services a rapidly growing $37 billion is this year's US dollar estimated market segment for that.
Mhm.
So we're not just building around one concept. We have other opportunities to generate revenue. And my, uh, basically marrying a fractionalization piece. So, we use the word fractionalization. It's essentially tokenization. Some people are not fond of the word tokenization because it to them it means some of the cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
We're not trying to be a cryptocurrency. This is a method of tracking and immutably measuring return on investment through Hyperledger and everything else within our platform.
Mhm.
So people will be given certificates of ownership initially in the company, and then if they want to lend into the debt pools that we'll be generating, they can do that. But this system can literally be applied to pretty much anything. And our entire projections have only talked about payday. We haven't talked about licensing, which we've had inquiries about people wanting to use our system to raise capital for their own companies.
Sure. That's exciting. So, Jeff, for the investor listening ear that wants to understand what you're going to be doing with the capital that you're raising, why don't you talk a little bit about some of the purpose-driven goals here related to marketing, biz dev, the technology, however you want to articulate that, because you've got some amazing things on the drawing board here. And where the dev sprint is right now, I think what you've been able to do and the team that you've been able to bring together I absolutely expect great things from this company. Of course, we're not making any promises or guarantees, folks. Remember that. But I think Jeff has some really good perspective for you to listen in on and make a determination if this should be a part of your portfolio. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thanks, Izzy. So the technology, as I said, the core platform itself is already existing. Part of the funds are going to be used. We have some very high quality programmers. I've been in this space a long, long time. I know a lot of good programmers that'll come in and work with us. So we have about a 22-week initial plan to get to, let's say, a version 1.0 of the fractionalization module. Longer term, this will also become a full, um, essentially, investor ecosystem and marketplace where people can come in, buy into debt pools, um, sell if they need to. Um, we are also doing sales and marketing. We'll do some initial payday loan debt acquisition as we're testing out our systems and making sure that everything on the actual lending and payment side is working the way that we expect before we start working with bringing in larger quantities of money to go and acquire debts and debt pools.
Mhm.
Um, so sales and marketing are definitely a larger part of it. The development itself, any programmer ever tells you, that just the program will be done by this date. Programming is an ongoing
Yeah,
process within any company that's software as a service or technology
sure.
centric. You have constant upgrades to versions of Microsoft infrastructure and all other components around the internet. So it's constant that you have to keep on patching and upgrading systems to maintain compliance.
Hmm.
Part of the funding will be used for setting up our legal structure for doing separation of existing loans from lenders and clients.
Hmm.
Um, we know exactly where we're getting the list of all the lenders. As I said, it's extensive, but we know where that is.
Hmm.
One of our advisors will be providing that list from within his own business.
Excellent.
So, we've done a lot to mitigate risk. There's never, situations where they don't have risk. I found that out, literally before COVID. We started down this path and then got run over by a pandemic that nobody saw coming.
Yeah.
So, but when we were doing that process before COVID, to give you an idea of how fast this can work, I took 30 days to start up a call center, put a room in place, hire my initial team, get up and running. And from the day we started taking calls, we were in positive cash flow in 3 weeks.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. So you're doing this again, but with the power of SaaS-driven technology and your team. You got a biz dev team, which I think is great. Underwriting folks. I mean, I'm really
Mhm.
excited about this, and it's remarkable how it helps on both sides, right? You got folks that are sitting on cash where the interest rate that they're getting in the bank is not going to see the bang for the buck to make it worth its while. The juice isn't worth the squeeze with the inflationary rates we're at. And then you have these other folks that are paying through the nose. So there's a nice happy medium where, hey, I can help take care of that and help with
Yeah.
your monthly expenditures and your budget. But the cash flow there for someone to be able to recoup $50 to $100 a month or more, I mean, that helps a lot of families today. You know, a lot of people are disconnected from the truth, which is go out and fill your tank with gas, go buy a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk and some eggs, and you tell me if you don't see anything different than even a year ago.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Americans spend for this year, it's estimated they'll spend about $45 billion in payday and installment loan fees.
Wow, that is
It's
incredible.
massive. It's massive. Shouldn't happen.
Yeah, yeah. All
You
right.
know,
Well, why don't we do
yeah.
this, Jeff? Why don't you tell investors what you see here as this capital gets raised? And folks, if you want details on all that, to have potentially an opportunity to speak with Jeff Clay, the founder of Universal Forge and one of these brand name companies, which I love it, RescueFi. To be a part of this project, it's an honor, and I'm really excited about it because I want to help people. I love that. And if you want to help people as well, folks, click on the link. Of course, there's no guarantee with your investment or anything like that. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is there's a reality here that there's a huge problem. They've come up with an amazing solution. It's already been done on a rudimentary basis, and you heard them say it. Within 3 weeks, they were cash flow positive. Does that mean that it'll work again? Well, no, we're not saying that, but you have to ask yourself, why wouldn't it? So get your questions answered to see if it merits being in your portfolio. I think it does, but that's simply my opinion. And hopefully you'll see what I see with this company, and you'll get the questions answered to make a determination if this should be a part of your portfolio. But Jeff, why don't we sunset this conversation and just tell investors what you see happening over the next 6, 9, 12 to 24 months with the company?
Over the next 6 months, most of the next 6 months will be spent, getting the initial system built. We plan on filing a Regulation A plus Tier 2 that will allow us to sell tokens within the United States and do smaller amounts. While we are doing that, we already have a lot of sites in that for lead creation and collection established. We'll be working with some of the other payday debt settlement companies and starting to establish lead flows from them. Um, and we're going to go out and um, begin a process from our own lead gen of sending some of the clients that owe 1,000 to 1,500 to them because it turns it into immediate cash flow for us. There's always going to be that relationship. There's always going to be some clients that we look at and say, you know what, they just don't fit in our model. They need to be in a traditional settlement program from a risk standpoint.
Yeah,
We don't want to make bad decisions. There's some people that when you look at their situation, you have to say, you know what, you're better off in bankruptcy.
yeah,
You just scrub all of this stuff away and you'll be in a much better place a year or two down the road.
yeah,
So we want to help people when we go into a 12-month lookout, where we should be in a position where we are actively onboarding a fairly substantial number of clients every single month, every single day. We have a process to find, some people are not popular around AI, and we can only really take AI to a certain stage when we're going through some of this process.
yeah. That makes sense.
So, but we have a process that's defined that technically could actually sign and enroll someone into this system 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They could actually be all the way through the process and just awaiting a confirmation call with one of our people to ensure that they understand the program. It's been fully explained to them. We'll have full recordings on everything. And that actually from where I was pre-COVID, that cut out a massive part of our initial budget
Yeah,
because I don't have to have a massive call center to handle
yeah,
this anymore.
yeah, yeah. It's a great point. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
So it's, the big takeaway from this, we know that we can make money doing $300 loans,
Yeah,
working and mitigating $300 loans. We're going to do higher dollar amount as well.
sure.
When I drilled this down, I wanted to take this to a minimum baseline that I could look at this and say, all right, can I make this work at this level? I can.
Yeah,
I absolutely can. So as we get into, year 2 and year 3, our growth rate, our only real limiting factor on growing this is going to be as we get out of the company infrastructure stage and into active lending stage, is going to be available capital to lend with.
sure.
And if we're offering a reasonable rate of return, I don't think that's going to be a problem.
No, I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. Well, folks, there you have it. Jeff Clay, the founder of Universal Forge, and this amazing platform that's going out and helping people that are in a bind, RescueFi. Love the name. Love what you're doing, Jeff. Thank you so much for joining us. Folks, again, your final opportunity to click on the link, get on a call with us to make a determination whether or not this should be in your portfolio and potentially have a direct conversation with Jeff Clay, the founder of Universal Forge and RescueFi. Thanks so much, Jeff. I really appreciate you carving
Thank
out
you,
the
Izzy.
time. I know you're super busy, but thanks for allowing to do that for our investor audience. And we will see you on the next one, everybody. Take care for now. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. Take care.